anger. Let me, as always, start with the headlines. Pakistan calls diversion of the Indus waters an act of war, closes its airspace to India. This is in response to India's measures. Pakistan now suspends all bilateral trade and closes the Wagah border as well. India suspends visas of Pakistani nationals effective April 27th. Those on medical visas have to leave India by April 29th. There's no excuse as there's no wait. India steps up its diplomatic offensive. Envoys of 20 countries briefed about Pahalgam attack. Of course, India now gathering full global support. India will definitely track and punish the Pahalgam attackers. Words of Prime Minister Modi. In fact, this possibly was the first time that Prime Minister Modi spoke in English in Indian soil. Of course, he also spoke in Hindi. He vows to avenge the killings of 26 innocents. Promises action will come soon and it will be beyond imagination. Jammu and Kashmir police releases sketches and identities of Pahalgam attackers, the terrorists. In fact, they've announced a reward of 20 lakh rupees for anyone giving any information of these terrorists. Remember, there were 4 terrorists who came by. There were 2 people who also helped them locally. These sketches now will hopefully help agencies track them at the earliest. Pakistan detains a BSF Jawan who accidentally crossed the Punjab border. A flag meeting currently being held where they're trying to get his release at the earliest. Meetings that are currently underway to see how they can rescue him. BSF scales down the retreat ceremony at Attare as well as Hossainiwala and Sadki along the Indo-Pak border. Symbolic handshake with Pakistan Rangers also suspended. And here you have a briefing with President Draupadi Murmu, Home Minister Amit Shah and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar briefing the President about the terror attack and the government's response on what they intend to do. An AIUDF MLA, Aminul Islam from Assam. His video where he speaks about the Pahalgam attacks, making an anti-India statement, has now resulted in his arrest. He's been taken into custody on sedition charges. The MLA also attributed the attacks to Modi and Shah. A fitting response, cops arrest him right after that video was released by himself. Now, while India is grieving, naturally there's a rush of sorrow, anger and even distrust in our hearts after the brutal attack in Pahalgam. We must, of course, remind ourselves that in this darkest moment, there are some lights that shine bright. Now, in the face of death and destruction in Pahalgam, there were ordinary Kashmiri Muslims who didn't back down. They did not flee. They, in fact, ran towards the gunfire and were the first to help the victims. One such person was 29-year-old Syed Adil Hussain Shah, a pony ride operator from Hapatnar village. In fact, he saw the gunmen and all that bloodshed that happened there. He saw that panic, but instead of running away, he decided to run towards the face of terror. All with just his bravery. We hear he confronted one of the gunmen there and asked, "Why are you killing innocent people?" He tried to grab his rifle as well, but moments later, he was gunned down. In fact, this man had no weapon. He did it all out of his courage to protect the innocent lives, but he was killed. His sister now fighting back tears. In fact, the family of Syed Adil remembers him very fondly as a man who always helped the others, irrespective of caste, whatever. Locals say that he is the real embodiment of Kashmiriyat. That is peace, courage, spirit, hospitality. As per what locals say, is what runs deep in the hearts of true Kashmiris.
बहुत फकर है उसकी शहादत पे। उसकी फकर के लिए मैं इस वक्त जिंदा हूँ, नहीं तो उसकी जवानी, उसकी शक्ल, उसकी ये देखकर मैं भी मार जाता। फिर उसी वक्त जब उसकी डेथ हुई तो मैं भी अपनी जान गंवा देता, लेकिन इस बहादुरी की वजह से मैं खुश हूँ और मेरी जान भी बच गई कि उसने और लोगों, सियाहों को बचाया, उन औरतों को वहाँ पे बचाया, उन बच्चों को बचाया। कुछ लोग उसकी वजह से बच गए, ये मुझे बहुत बड़ा नाज है उनका। ऐसी मांग है कि ऐसी इनकी कार्रवाई करनी चाहिए, जैसे हमारे बच्चे पर इन्होंने कुछ नहीं देखा तो हम उन पर क्या देखेंगे। इनको कड़ी सी कड़ी सजा मिलनी चाहिए, इनको पूरे मौत के घाट उतारना चाहिए।
गया मजदूरी की अगू गया उथा गया ना कहन उनकी जान बचेंदा जिंदा अपनी जान देकर चला गया। क्या करूं? और ये एक बंदा था जिड़ा मेरे लिए कमा कांडा, और कौन था? क्या करूं हम? ए भी बूढ़ा, मैं भी बूढ़ी, ये बीमार था, इसको वही आशा दवा शवा आन का देना, क्या करा? और कौन आनसी, कौन देसी?
Now, it wasn't just Adil, there was also Irshad Ahmed, an ATV driver who didn't hesitate for a second. Soon as the gunfire rang out and chaos reigned, Irshad immediately started ferrying injured tourists on his bike. We heard that he was carrying a couple of dead bodies as well, people who lost their lives. He didn't hesitate. He rushed towards the attack site, and while that was on, he tried to help those locals, in fact those tourists there who were attacked, flee from the spot. Many of them were all helter-skelter. They wanted to rush out of there. This man tried to ferry them to safety.
पहली डेड बॉडी मैंने उठाई थी, जो कपल था वो नेवी ऑफिसर, उनको मैं लेके आया था। ऑन द वे मैं रुका, मैंने उनकी पल्स चेक करी, बट वो डेड थे। मैंने उनकी जो वाइफ थी उनको झूठ बोला कि ये जिंदा है, आप टेंशन मत लीजिए, मैं इनको लेके जाऊंगा हॉस्पिटल। और जो ही मैं एम्बुलेंस के पास पहुंचा, उन्होंने उनको वहां से रिकवर करके उनको हॉस्पिटल लेके गए। लगभग से हमने 4-5 को बाइक्स पे ही लेके आए। उसके बाद बाकी घोड़े वालों ने, बाकी सब ने पूरी मदद की इनको।
Now remember, the resort was located right in the upper reaches. It's difficult for people to get there. Rescue teams took a little while to reach when the attacks were reported, and which is why you saw a lot of locals there who came first to help. Also, Sajjad, a shawl seller who recalls how locals rushed to offer medical aid and water and whatnot to all the injured people there. They carried those who could not even walk, and they held them very close because, of course, in that moment, humanity comes before anything else, and that's what they showed.
जैसे ये खबर मतलब फैली हुई बैसर में ऐसे इंसिडेंट हुआ है, तो ये जो यूनियन का प्रेसिडेंट था, पुणे यूनियन का एसोसिएशन का जो प्रेसिडेंट था वहीद साहब, उनको मतलब फ़ोन आया कि वहाँ पे जाओ, वहाँ पे लोगों की ज़रूरत है रेस्क्यू के लिए। मैं वो मुझे अपने साथ लेके गए, तो हम वहाँ पहुँचे। वहाँ बहुत सारे घोड़े वाले भी थे। हाँ, वहाँ पे जो पड़े थे, मतलब जो जख्मी थे, उनको हमने पानी वानी पिला के फिर हम
जख्मी लगभग दिखे
मुझे तो हम तो जो हमने 2-3 देखा, उनको हमने मतलब बाग जो साइड में बैठे हुए थे, सेमी हुए थे, उनको भी घोड़े पे बिठा के हमने जो जिनको कंधे पे उठा के हम लेके गए थे पहलगाम तरफ। बस उसके बाद हम तो सीधा घर आ गए सर। हाँ, बाकी मतलब खूब का माहौल था सर। लोग डरे, मतलब हम भी डरे हुए थे। कैसे मतलब ऐसा जिंदगी में कभी नहीं देखा, पहली बार लाइफ में ऐसा हुआ। ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए। इंसानियत का कत्ल हुआ है, पूरा कश्मीरी लोगों का कत्ल हुआ है। आप मतलब कश्मीर के घर में, अब अगर कहीं किसी के भी घर में देखोगे, सबका आंखें नम है, सबका दिल रो रहा है। अब किसको दिखाए खोल के कि हमारे अंदर क्या गुजर रहा है।
In fact, Najakat Ali, a local tourist guide, broke down as he spoke of that fateful day. He was in fact integral in saving 11 lives. He says they first thought it was firecrackers, but the firing didn't just stop at all. But yet in the face of that terror, these men literally tried all that they could to help the tourists there who were trapped thanks to those terrorists who had made them stand, check their identities and kill them. Now, many of them, like Najakat, managed to help those tourists escape.
मंजर यही था, सामने मौत थी, तो यही था कि सारे डरे हुए थे, सारे लोग भाग रहे थे। वहाँ कोई किसी के साथ था नहीं। तो जब मैंने वो टूरिस्ट ने मुझे बोला मेरे बच्चे को बचाओ, तो उस टाइम मेरे आंखों से आंसू आया। मैंने बोला इसको अपनी जान का फिक्र, बच्चे की जान का फिक्र है। जी ये बिल्कुल हैवानियत है, ये इंसानियत है ही नहीं है। ये इंसानियत का बिल्कुल जनाजा उठाया गया है, क्योंकि ये टूरिस्ट लोग इतने दूर से आते हैं, यहाँ खर्चा करने आते हैं, और इन्हीं के बदौलत हम लोग भी थोड़ा बहुत रोजगार कमाते हैं।
You know, these are the people who could have really hidden, they could have ran away, chose to act in the midst of that bloodbath. They did show us what true courage and compassion looks like. Humanity will always stand tall. That is what defines us. Now to take you through heartbreaking visuals that's come in from across the country after 3 days have passed of that Pahalgam terror attack. Across the country, families at this point receiving mortal remains of their loved ones. You know, our feed is entirely at this point flooded with heartbreaking visuals of coffins draped in silence, tearful goodbyes, wives clinging on to photographs, children lighting pyres. We're really pained to bring you this footage here, but it must be shown because we need to remember every face that will not return home needs to be remembered. The final journey, let me start with, of Shimoga entrepreneur Manjunath Rao, the one that really fills our heart with tears. In fact, Union Minister Prahlad Joshi was also present there, standing with the grieving family, offering condolences, joining hands in sorrow. We saw at the cremation ground his wife Pallavi, who could not hold back. She says, "It should be a bad dream. I want to wake up from this bad dream. This should not happen to anyone's family. They were targeting only men." She says this and she just sobs.
ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡನ ಸಾಯಿಸಿದಲ್ಲ, मेरे पति को मारा है ना, हमें भी मारो ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಅವನು ಕಿಚ್ಚಿದ್ದೆ. ಅವನು ಆಚೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ದವನು ತಿರುಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮೋದಿ को बता दो ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ.
And here in Mysuru, Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has paid his last respects, in fact, to Bharat Bhushan. If I could take you through, that's images there coming in from Karnataka, where Bharat Bhushan, a techie in Karnataka, also was shot dead. In fact, Siddaramaiah has also spoken briefly. Let's hear it.
And he has achieved many goals in his life. And his Mrs. She has done her MD in general medicine. She has served a lot in COVID. 24 hours she has worked for the nation. And for 14 years she has served in MS Ramaiah institution. And for having served so much to the country, is this the way our the country should go back to him, his family? I don't think this is right. Whosoever has done this shouldn't repeat. And add to that, this is not the way. Let it be any religion, caste, anything. We are not, India is a peaceful country. We have to be peaceful. And this should not repeat.
In fact, that was Siddharaman, who is the uncle of Bharat Bhushan. Very, very tragic to hear accounts. I'm going to take you through now of Madhusudan, 32-year-old Madhusudan, who is an IT professional from Nellore, Andhra Pradesh. He landed in Bengaluru for work. He moved to the city to build a better life and a future. He went on a holiday with his wife and son. And here you see visuals here where he returns in a casket. From there, he was driven to Nellore. In fact, the mortal remains was taken back. Well, definitely not the journey back home that the family has imagined.
I miss you.
Sir, side.
You through the cremation of two best friends in Pune. There you have it. Two best friends who decided to go for a holiday to Kashmir's Pahalgam. Now, hundreds gathered at Vaikunth crematorium to bid farewell to these two friends, very close, Santosh Jagdale and Kaustob Ganbode. They had travelled to the valley together and they've returned in silence. Who went together, and one should remember that Pahalgam is an area that has a high footfall. We hear that the security forces were not adequately deployed because it did not have that kind of threat perception. And on that day of the attack, there were nearly 1,000 tourists along the meadows there. So, two best friends who managed to travel, unfortunately, tragic end. Now in Kanpur, tragedy has struck a married couple, a newly married couple. Shubham was shot in the head in front of his wife. In fact, UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has also met with his family. His wife shared the pain, the horror of witnessing her husband die right before her eyes. That's Yogi Adityanath, who's paying his respects there as the mortal remains arrives in Kanpur.
मैं और शुभम बैठ के मैगी खाने जा रहे थे। शाम भी मेरी बहन थोड़ा दूर बैठी थी और पापा मेरे वॉशरूम में। उतनी देर में एक बंदा पीछे से आया और उसने गोली साइड में रख के उससे पूछा हिंदू है कि मुसलमान है। मुसलमान है तो पहले कलमा पढ़ के दिखा। जैसे हमें पता ही नहीं, हम पीछे पलट के देखे हो क्या रहा है। हम उसकी तरफ स्माइल करके पूछे भैया क्या हुआ, कह रहे हिंदू है मुसलमान। मैंने कहा हिंदू मार दिया, मार दिया। पहली गन उसी पे चलाई। हिंदू मुसलमान पड़ गए हुए बंदी को मार।
And then you have in West Bengal, BJP President Sukamta Majumdar, who attended the funeral of Manish Ranjan. Well, if you could take you through images of Manish, that's in fact Manish Ranjan in Hyderabad, apologies for that. In fact, the techie in Hyderabad, Manish Ranjan, who had gone for a vacation with his wife and children, tourists there opened fire on his family. In fact, Manish Ranjan was the one who died. His wife and his kids saw him collapse right before them. For Sushil Nathaniel, a branch manager with LIC, he had travelled to Kashmir with his family for a break, but the serenity of Baisaran was shattered. Sushil was hit in the head, rushed to a hospital in Srinagar, but he could not make it. Well, these are the sorry stories that's coming in from Kashmir and across the country. In fact, these are images that we showed you of funerals, of coffins that are arriving at the hometowns of people who died in this dastardly attack. Fear, of course, at this point grips Kashmir as well. After that bloodshed and the heartbreak, now we see that valley entirely silent. Thousands of tourists are cutting short their trip from Kashmir. Long queues are piling up at the Srinagar airport. More than 2 lakh bookings have been cancelled across Kashmir region. In fact, for a region that really survived on tourism, these attacks didn't just take lives, it's also shattered the livelihood of Kashmiri locals and stole something that's very, very precious, and that's trust. Remember, we are wounded, but we aren't broken. It's definitely our turn now to fight back, to take revenge, not with hate, of course, but with resolve. We make sure this never happens again. Now, to take you through all the security arrangements, here's the latest development. 3 days on since the attack in Pahalgam that's killed 26 innocent people, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke up. He, in a thunderous warning, while he spoke in Bihar, did not hold back, declared that those responsible will be punished beyond imagination. His message was loud and clear that India will track down terrorists and their backers wherever they are.
ये हमला सिर्फ निहत्थे पर्यटकों पर नहीं हुआ है, देश के दुश्मनों ने भारत की आत्मा पर हमला करने का दुस्साहस किया है। मैं बहुत स्पष्ट शब्दों में कहना चाहता हूं, जिन्होंने ये हमला किया है, उन आतंकियों को और इस हमले की साजिश रचने वालों को उनकी कल्पना से भी बड़ी सजा मिलेगी। सजा मिलकर के रहेगी। अब आतंकियों की बची खुची जमीन को भी मिट्टी में मिलाने का समय आ गया है। $140 करोड़ भारतीयों की इच्छा शक्ति अब आतंकी आकाओं की कमर तोड़ कर रहेगी। फ्रेंड्स, टुडे from the soil of Bihar, I say to the whole world, India will identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backers. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth. India's spirit will never be broken by terrorism. Terrorism will not go unpunished.
All right, now in Delhi, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has chaired a crucial all-party meeting, a rare moment of political unity cutting across party lines from the opposition to the ruling front. Every voice has stood together, sending a strong signal there to those who dared target this nation.
मैं मानता हूं कि आज के इस महत्वपूर्ण ऑल पार्टी बैठक में जो हमने स्पिरिट अडॉप्ट किया है कि एकजुट होकर के लड़ाई लड़ेंगे आतंकवाद के खिलाफ, वो आगे भी जारी रहेगा। और एक अपील किया है कि ऐसे समय में हम एक दूसरे के खिलाफ राजनीतिक दृश्य से ना दिखें और राजनीति ना करें। ऐसे माहौल में देश एकजुट रहना चाहिए, ये भी सबने संदेश दिया है।
यूनिफॉर्मली कंडेम किया है सबने जो हुआ है, और पूरी सपोर्ट दी है ऑपोजिशन ने सरकार को, कोई भी एक्शन नहीं।
कश्मीर में शांति रखने के लिए वो अच्छा प्रयास करे और वहाँ पर शांति रखना जरूरी है, ये बात उनके सामने हमने रखा और उन्होंने ये कहा कि सभी एक्शन ले लें।
आप इस तरह से किसी एक समुदाय को जो इस बाइज्जत इस मुल्क के शहरी हैं और मुसलमानों का इससे कोई ताल्लुक है ना कभी रहेगा, यकीनन हम मान रहे कि इन दहशतगर्दों ने किसी का रिलीजन पूछकर उनकी जान ली, वो कंडेमनेबल है। इंटरनेशनल लॉ इस बात की इजाजत देता है कि हम नेवल और एयर ब्लॉकेट करें पाकिस्तान के सेल्फ डिफेंस में और सैंक्शंस लगाएं पाकिस्तान के ऊपर, खास तौर से आर्म्स सेल्स में।
All right, there you have it. We saw that there was an all-party meet that all the opposition leaders who came together, they had a clear message and a clear stance that they are going to support the Indian government no matter what. This is an act of terror, so India stands together, the opposition fully backing the Indian government. Now, on the diplomatic front, India has moved quite swiftly. Foreign envoys were summoned to the Ministry of External Affairs, given a detailed briefing on Pahalgam massacre. In fact, the terror outfits involved and the backing that they received, all that was briefed. Union Home Minister Amit Shah and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has also called on President Draupadi Murmu, meeting, they made one thing quite clear. In fact, they've conveyed national security is on top of India's agenda and they will do everything they can to protect it. Now, here's the retaliation, India's response to Pakistan. In fact, India has now launched a multi-pronged approach. First of all, the Indus water treaty with Pakistan will be put on hold. The Atari integrated checkpost has been completely sealed. Pakistani military attaches are expelled. Pakistani nationals in India will have literally 48 hours to leave the country, even if they're on a medical visa. Now, Islamabad's mission in Delhi itself has trimmed down from 55 to just 30. Basically, all the other diplomats from India, from Pakistan, will have to leave. All visas, like I mentioned, for Pakistani nationals revoked, including medical treatment visas. No fresh travel documents for Pakistani citizens. The line has been drawn and it's quite clear. Now, this is India's fight back, which is bold, strategic and uncompromising. Now, let me take you through Pakistan that's hit back with countermeasures against India. This is Pakistan's response, mirroring India's countermeasures. Now, Pakistan says they are going to shut Wagah border, and that's closed for all trade with India, even via third-party countries. All trade routes, including any third country, is all suspended. Pakistan will no more do any businesses with India. That's what the government of Pakistan has decided. Pakistan has also decided now that they're going to airspace, which is any flights that was so far moving through Pakistan airspace will no more have that liberty. So airspace for Indian flights or Indian-owned operators completely shut. In fact, Air India has now given advisory saying that people wanting to travel to America, North America, Europe, there will be delays in the flight route because of this very announcement from Pakistan. And then Pakistan announcing all the SARC visas will be suspended for Indian nationals. Also, Indian military diplomats have declared persona non grata, just like what India did. So, diplomats in Pakistan now will no more, Indian diplomats in Pakistan will no more have diplomatic immunity, and they too will have to return to India at the earliest. Indian diplomatic staff in Islamabad has been capped at 30. And all bilateral agreements, including the Shimla agreement, will now be held in abeyance. Let's listen in. You had the Pakistan defense minister who spoke.
इंडिया जो है ना वो अपनी जो हमारी इंफॉर्मेशन है कि वो इस वक्त जो है एक ऑल आउट वॉर की जगह जो है पाकिस्तान के शहरों में जो है वो दहशतगर्दी की जो है पूरी तैयारी कर रहा है और उस टेररिज्म की जो वेव है मैं आप लोगों की वसातत से बताना चाहता हूँ कि हम उसके लिए पूरा तैयार हैं और ये टिट फॉर टैट होगा अगर हमारे शहरों में हमारे सिटीजन्स जो हैं वो महफूज ना हुए अगर उन पे अटैक हुआ तो ये इंडिया के सिटीजन्स भी जो है महफूज नहीं रहेंगे बिल्कुल ये अगर एक भी हमारा सिटीजन जो है हमें ये साबित हुआ कि वो इंडियन परपेट्रेटेड या इंडियन ऑर्केस्ट्रेटेड अटैक में कोई शहीद हुआ है तो वी विल मेक देम पे थ्रू देयर नोजेस इंडियंस को जो है ये बिल्कुल क्लैरिटी के
वाघा बॉर्डर उसको क्लोज किया जा रहा है फौरी तौर के ऊपर जितनी क्रॉस बॉर्डर ट्रांजिट जो है फ्रॉम इंडिया वाघा बॉर्डर के ज़रिए उसको सस्पेंड किया जा रहा है विदाउट एक्सेप्शन और जो दोज हु हैव क्रॉस्ड हुए हैं उनके लिए 30 अप्रैल की डेडलाइन मुकर्रर कर दी गई है कि वो वापस पाकिस्तान से चले जाएं। कोई भी चैलेंज अगर पाकिस्तान को किसी भी हवाले से होगा तो उसके लिए अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हमारी अफवाज पाकिस्तान मुकम्मल तौर पर तैयार हैं और किसी को ये गलतफहमी में नहीं रहना चाहिए। जो चीज़ें एक्शंस उन्होंने की हैं हमने उन एक्शंस का एक का जवाब दिया है और उससे बढ़ के हमने अपनी एयर स्पेस को इंडियन ओन्ड एंड इंडियन ऑपरेटेड एयरलाइंस के लिए फौरी तौर के ऊपर बंद कर दिया है।
All right, well, Pakistan's response saying that if India does anything now, they'll have to pay through their nose. We're going to wait and watch what India's response will truly be. But of course, Indian Army right now training itself on high alert for a fitting response. It's just about time that we wait to see what happens. Slipping into a short break, coming back with the preparedness of the Indian Army. What next for India? Our panel is joining us, the best of military minds. Stay with us.
need expert performance, I need my carrier.
The road is calling. Will you make a move? The road is calling. You've got nothing to lose.
Beyond better, the new Tiguan R-Line. Volkswagen.
Smash your way to glory at the News 9 Corporate Badminton Championship. Get ready for the ultimate badminton showdown. News 9 presents the biggest corporate championship, a battle of skill, speed and supremacy. Cash prize of 6 lakh rupees across categories. Venue, Pulela Gopichand Badminton Academy, Hyderabad. Dates, May 9th to May 11th. A chance to showcase your talent and make a mark. The court is set. Are you ready? Register now.
Presenting sponsor, Srinidhi University. Kindle the light within. Venue partner, Pulela Gopichand Badminton Academy, Hyderabad.
You have donned many hats: screenplay writer, director, producer. But who is Kiran Rao?
I am a speck and I am not even a blink in time. Your identity is always sort of defined by the men in your life.
The crux of this imbalance is the financial independence, that disparity in financial independence.
I think marriage needs redefinition. You change your name, not just your last name. Women used to change their name.
Would you ever sit back and think, am I on a springboard? Am I ready to take the next big leap?
Work doesn't entirely define me. I mean, different days I'm the first and different days I'm the latter. If you're not doing the next big thing, then are you even relevant at all?
Watch Radico Presents Duologue with Barun Das, Season 3, featuring Kiran Rao, at these times on News 9. News 9, English news, as it should be.
Well, there you have it. India's fitting response as India gears up. The first thing that India did was to break away from the Indus Water Treaty. Now, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri had said that the Indus Waters Treaty of 1960 will be held in abeyance until Pakistan, in fact, abjures its support for cross-border terrorism. Now, remember, India and Pakistan signed this treaty in 1960. It's cooperation and information exchange between the two sides on use of waters. India has control over the eastern rivers, Ravi, Base and Sutlej. Pakistan gets waters from the western rivers, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. The treaty benefits Pakistan as it receives about 80% of the total water flow, vital for agriculture in Pakistan, especially in the provinces of Punjab and Sindh. Now, India can generate hydroelectricity through run-of-river projects on the western rivers, in fact, gives rights to Pakistan to raise objections on the design of Indian hydroelectric projects on western rivers, warrants the two commissioners to meet at least once a year, and provisions from time to time will be modified by a duly ratified treaty. So this is basically what the agreement really said between the two countries. It did benefit both countries, Pakistan certainly, but this withdrawing from here has almost jolted Pakistan. And this is certainly not the only response that India has given. In fact, there are a host of other details that India is currently looking into on how to respond in measure. I'm going to bring in Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, who's retired, is an excellent mind on defense and strategy. Thanks very much, General. If you can give us a little sense on India gearing up for a big one. I'm not too sure if war is the right word to use here, but a fitting response is what we are expecting. And I don't think any one of us should be ashamed to expect revenge. We want to avenge the deaths of the 26 innocent people. Indian government has promised us. How do you think India is prepared?
So, when you talk of national security and the tools which are available by the government of India, military is one of the ones which is supposed to be possibly unleashed at the last. However, while I say this, and being a military professional, possibly I'm the most unlikely candidate to talk of war, not talk of war, but I think, please understand that while the Indian armed forces are totally ready for the orders whenever they are given, it will not take time for this machinery to be unleashed. But yet, I guess there are enough tools on the table of the government of India in terms of national security management that to be applied, and which a few of them have been already applied. But I'll just quickly come back to a couple of issues. You just talked of Indian water, Indus water treaty agreement held in abeyance. Please understand that for last about 75-80 years, we have been doing goodness to this country. And unfortunately, every time the goodness has come back with a backstabbing which has taken place. Therefore, with this particular country, goodness has got a very little shelf life. So 60s, we paid for the entire construction of the whole stuff for them. It went from our kitty while India was still poor, right? And this is what the comeback has been. And then look at 71. We returned 93,000 prisoners. We did not gain anything after seeing for possibly creation of Bangladesh. And creation of Bangladesh, which we look at it is good for Pakistan because a very heavy economic drain was taken out from Pakistan to manage. But this whole geopolitical point which comes to an inflection point is this Asif Munir-led government. I don't want to take name of Shahbaz Sharif and their front people because they are the point.
They hardly have powers.
They don't have powers. They don't have any say. They were possibly at the rock bottom of their local stand-eye in terms of the population, people of Pakistan. They are looking for a bait out. They are looking for a way out. And possibly every time when you go in the history of Pakistan, where they come down to the lowest ebb, the best possible way is to do something silly and gain relevance and ensure that the power of the military which runs this country, which owns this country, starts to be reinforced. And if you look at the local constraints, the regional conflicts within the country itself, with Baloch movement going on and what is happening in Fatah and what is happening in Gilgit-Baltistan area. In fact, their own Punjab provinces are now getting fractured.
Yeah.
They don't have jobs to give. They don't have economic comeback to achieve. The talk of Asif Munir on just few days back, I think it was 16th April, should have been technically a giveaway. Was a messaging, very, very strong messaging to his own people that religion is going to be the way forward, dealing with India, and therefore, if anything happens, and then you quickly wind up to 22nd of April, when the iCards or the cards or the religion festival was being checked, there is a very, very clear linkages which happen with this element, what has been dictated or talked by this Asif Munir and what has been done by the terrorists.
So he clearly incited and this followed right after that incitement. But do you believe that Asif Munir's statement that he made recently could be the real trigger? Because that happened very recent. In that given time frame, these men have trained themselves and managed to infiltrate with such ease.
No, Nabila, it doesn't work like this.
Yeah.
There are always elements which are present. We are dealing with, and this is what I've been saying for quite some time. I'll not say only 1 or 2 years, if anybody's followed what I've been saying. There has been, the environment looks peaceful, but it's not peace. Just because the number of tourism has gone out, the recruitment numbers of terrorists has come down, doesn't mean that the conflict economy or the people who are going to run the conflict from within the country are not present in this thing. So that lever of creating nuisance, problem, killings will always have, because there are adequate number of people who are foreign terrorists, even the local terrorists who are on this agenda. So the fact of the matter is there's enough number of intelligence which is available, the local support which is required in terms of logistics, intelligence and information which is to be given to the people who are likely to carry out this operation is available to them. It is only the timing which is required to be calibrated. So why do you think it happens that every time a major VIP visit of a national or international importance is taking place to our country, you find certain degree of civilian killing which will take place, you'll find certain attack on a post which will take place. These numbers are there and they are calibrated at a given point of time when it's going to get Pakistan the resonance and response, or to bring it on the table of international audience. So therefore, it was very, very great time. Everybody knew that Prime Minister is going to Saudi Arabia. People knew Hans is coming. And when you look at this communication which happens to say that we are two different people, Hindus are Hindus, our cultures are different, and oh, by the way, two nation theory is going to be only complete when possibly the division is complete. There are enough Muslims who possibly love our country, they love India much more than. So that entire thing continues to remain incomplete in his mind and of mind of the ilk of it is. So therefore, this is the most common theme in which the person who doesn't have anything to eat can fall behind this government, which is being controlled by the military, and therefore this activity has been done, and possibly I think it's a great bait they have set across. The day military muscle is used, you imagine this entire trouble, the fractured country is going to join hands together. There cannot be a better bait for us to be possibly taken, and I think people have to be very, very careful. This jingoism is what exactly he wants, and the jingoism is the one which will allow him to sustain. Imagine for 7 years he wants to remain the chief. Where in the world, even in the dictatorship, possibly one or two, which we know, there is a concept of a child becoming a chief and thereafter continues to rule the army of the nation. So if he has to do all this, his survival depends upon something major to be done by our country.
Correct. And they fail on every account. I think at this point, India's composure speaks louder. We've got to work in stealth, and it's our resolve that at this point, we want to ensure we get back what we've lost. Thanks very much, General Pandey, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Nabila.
All right, India is gearing up, and we hear that the armed forces are working heavily, launching some ground operations where they're trying to prepare. This is INS Surat. In fact, what we hear that INS Surat, Indian Navy's latest indigenous guided missile destroyer, has successfully carried out a precision strike skimming target, one that flies low over the water to evade radar detection. So this is Indian Army gearing up. The Navy there. This makes it very significant as it is a cooperative engagement, meaning the target was tracked and engaged using data shared between multiple platforms, showing that the Navy at this point has growing ability to fight in a networked, coordinated battle environment. A big boost to India's naval firepower and indigenous defense capability. Now, we also know that India at this point has also launched, the Air Force has launched a major air exercise called Akraman as well. So India is really working its army at this point and testing its capabilities. Let me bring in our experts on the panel, Ambassador Anil Trigunyat, who's a former diplomat, joining us. Thanks very much, sir. We also have Major General Sanjay Meston, retired defense and strategy expert. Thanks very much. General Sanjay Meston, if you could give us your sense on the firepower that India has. We see visuals that are quite stunning, in fact, of INS Surat. If we could play that on our screens. INS Surat, that's basically testing itself. And we also hear that the Air Force has launched a major air exercise called Akraman. So Rafale, Su-30 MKs, all leading drills at this point as we speak.
Yeah, Nabila, good evening. As regards these exercises are concerned, see, let me be very candid. Everything has already been conceived long time back. Now, what I'm trying to say is that it's not that, we are doing something anew. We have always practiced it, and Indian Army, or rather the Indian Armed Forces, works out all possible contingencies, whether it is for the Air Force, for the Navy, and for the Army. Now we are just not practicing, I would say. We are just now showing our capability to the enemy and keeping him, confused. Because now he would be wondering what is the intent, what they are up to, where they will go, in what manner they will go, in how much force level they will go, whether it will be restricted to some area, whether it will be pinpricks everywhere. So this is to confuse him. Our operational plans are always ready. That is very, very clear. Even regarding the Air Force, all strategic targets have been identified long back. It is part of our standard operating procedure, and so many options are there. Now it is up to us which option we choose and how we choose it and execute us.
Yeah.
So exactly what is this naval firing going out, the Air Force exercises, and whether even the armed forces are doing some kind of drill, they are just doing it for a reason. Firstly, yes, it is again re-practice and practice. And second is to confuse the enemy. And that is exactly what is happening now. If because the people in the country, our own country, have been calling me up, what's happening? Is the war going to start?
Yeah.
So if our people are talking about it, you think what would be the mind in the, what would the status in the mind of the Pakistani officers, their armed forces, their ISI, their common people. Imagine, and they know Indian Army or the Indian Defence Forces is so superior. We have, tremendous firepower. Our manpower is so good, huge manpower, almost double. So in every way we have an advantage. And today we do not have to be worried about the China front or so-and-so front. We can mobilize any amount of troops. So even whether we decide to mobilize, that is up to us. So this is a stage where the enemy will be thoroughly confused, and that is why he is overreacting. He started already moving his reserve formations, whether it is in Punjab, whether it is in J&K. So he is overreacting. For all you know, and it's good, because once he overreacts, then we can also study his pattern and identify his weaknesses and do something accordingly. So this is a very, very good stage what we are doing. And as on date, we have all advantages in terms of, shaping up the battlefield. Shaping up the battlefield, what I want to say is, the diplomacy and the statement yesterday by the Foreign Secretary is all part of shaping the environment. That is also part of shaping the battlefield. Today, all the major powers in the world are standing united with India. That is the first thing.
Yeah.
Second, China is involved in its own problems on the tariff and trade wars. You look at the Pakistan army, it is also embroiled on the western front with the Baluchis, with the T, of course, with the Afghan Taliban. So this is and even in POK, there are uprisings against the Pakistan army. So this is a good situation for India. Now when to strike? Now, like today, Prime Minister has conveyed very, very clearly, we are ready, we will do anything. So imagine all these statements every day, these exercises, these maneuvers. You see the, and warfare, the first principle is create confusion in the mind of the enemy. And this is exactly what we are doing, Nabila.
Great. I'd like to ask Ambassador Anil, we've heard responses coming in from Pakistan. Pakistan media is fully abuzz, and they're constantly talking about how it was premature for India to blame them. Ambassador Anil, your take on the kind of evidence that India may have found to trace this attack back to Pakistan. Why do we strongly believe that this is the hand of LET? In fact, LET themselves, LET deputy chief has spoken in an online video saying we are not involved, those terrorists are not ours, this is a way to tarnish Pakistan and our name, it's premature. I mean, LET is a terror organization, let's let that go. But Pakistan on the whole claims foul. They're saying that this is India's internal job and we are being blamed for it. How can you punch holes in this?
Well, Nabila, this is the standard Pakistani rant that comes out from their machine. The whole world knows that cross-border terrorism has always been, at least for the last 4 decades, an instrument of their foreign policy against India. And so generating terrorism, supporting terror groups, handling them, guiding them is basically the way they work. I mean, it is not something that is new. We have seen it repeatedly that Pakistani hand has been there. We have provided all the evidence in the past, but that means nothing to them. It's now that several reasons because of which they are rattled, essentially. One of them, General Pandey also mentioned, and General Master is mentioning. One was very simply that the Pakistani army is very unpopular at this stage because the way the condition of Pakistan is today. So one reason is very clear, that you are going to create some kind of a thing among people, fear and sort of a patriotism, and so that's something that gives them this to unify the country. Secondly, they know that India is, the Prime Minister had gone to Saudi Arabia, the Vice President of USA was in India, and therefore, just to say that Kashmir is still not settled, as we are trying to say to the world, that there have been elections, there is a government, things are moving, tourists are going there. So this was some kind of a response that they tried to create and show to the world that India is not stable. And doing it at this time, when Prime Minister had to cut short his visit to Saudi Arabia, and you know that Saudi Arabia was one of their biggest benefactors until recently. But now they have also understood, especially since 2019 when Pulwama and Balakot happened and the Article 370, they understand what Pakistan is doing. So Pakistan is losing and they're trying to just somehow tell the world that they are still there and they would like to continue to impose costs on India. But they forget that every time in the recent past that they have tried to do it, be it Uri in 2016 or Pulwama in 2019, India has responded with increased, I would say, efficiency and firepower. And this time, they have really crossed all lines, in my view. And that is something, that's why the response that India is giving now, the first time you have seen the diplomatic response. Now, number one is the Indus water. Suspending the Indus water treaty is a big deal, actually, because water is a weapon.
Yeah, and they've said this is an act of war. Pakistan says that if you touch the water access, then this is an act of war.
They asked for it. It's not something that India has been asking to renegotiate this treaty for a very long time, for many years now. But this is the time that we are doing. So like Prime Minister says, the blood and water cannot flow together. So this is exactly what India has done. And secondly, closing the last border check post that was open, which was some kind of a trade was going on or people were going and coming, and that is all being shut down now. That you rightly do it because that's also strategically important.
What trade were we doing with Pakistan? Were we doing business with Pakistan?
Well, we are not doing, but Pakistan needs something. They are buying everything Indian via Dubai and other places, but they have been used in the past for helping Afghanistan. For example, when we wanted to send 50,000 tons, they have been requesting us for some kind of fertilizer, some kind of assistance and some the medical drugs and all that were going there. I mean, it's not that. Some minor trade has been going border. That was happening. But it was not big because they themselves had stopped earlier. If you remember, it's not now, but the last time in 2019 onwards, they have been doing like that. But then they approach India and request for some supplies which have been given. So that's also will stop now. So today that is something very important. And thirdly, of course, I mean, why the visas were cancelled, you must also understand, because a large number of people, they come. So it is also quite possible that they would have come from Pakistan and trying to organize these, this kind of an act or something more can happen. Then the military advisors, very often it has been seen because Pakistani intelligence is driven by the military. The ISI is a military outfit and therefore it makes sense to throw out or declare their defense officials as persona non grata. So India has taken the diplomatic steps in the first place, and today all the G20 and other countries invited. They were briefed about everything, and the Prime Minister has already said that this will be an unprecedented response. So I think that this next steps, we are already, as General Saab has mentioned, that the army is ready, the military, Indian military in all its forms, is ready to take for any challenge. Now it's up to us when, how and which way we are going to use it, whether just only against the terror targets which are there, the terrorists across the LOC, or it will be a bigger thing which is being also anticipated. But definitely a bigger and more firmer response will be forthcoming.
Yeah. A final word, General Meston, since we're right to the fag end of the show, if you could tell us a quick word about the warning of sorts that the Defence Minister of Pakistan has given India, saying that you try any attack on our cities, or basically saying if you launch war with us, you'll have to pay through your noses. The confidence and conviction with which they've spoken. Tell us, where does that come from?
Nabila, firstly, we should not be even talking about or be worried about such ridiculous statements. they are afraid, and that is why they are making these hollow statements. And let me also tell you, remind you, Munir was a DG ISI when Pulwama happened. The same gentleman is now, of course, done this. And also let me remind you, on 22nd March this year at the Kakul Passing Out Parade Military Academy, he had also made remarks on Kashmir, that we will fight for Kashmir. And then again on 16th April, he made this statement. So he's a mad person, and I'll tell you why. Look at the example of Hamas. They did that October 7th, very well realizing what Israel will do. And we have seen what Israel is doing. And till date, Hamas has kept these hostages. They have not released them. And what is Israel doing? Since they want to get out all their hostages, they have been striking, and today Gaza has been flattened. People have suffered. 60,000 Palestinians have been killed.
We know what has happened, but did that deter them? It did not deter them. At any given point, they'll still launch an airstrike if they have the capacity. That's the problem. The problem is the innocent lives are paying for that mess. Innocence, and I fear for Indian citizens, Indian innocents. We're the ones who will eventually be bearing the brunt of this. You know, two countries will hold their noses up and possibly get into war. Pakistan cares less. You said Asif Munir is a madman, and that's what's more scary.
Yeah, so no, that's what exactly I'm telling you. He is not worried about his own people. He is worried about himself. So, and such bad people will be eliminated by his own people. This is not Palestinian population who are suppressed. You have seen the trailer. Corps commanders' houses were burnt. Military bases were attacked. Air Force bases were attacked. Who attacked? It was the Pakistan ki janta, the Pakistan ka awam. And
so you're saying the people of Pakistan will turn against the military and the government?
Yes,
the government anyway, hardly any powers. They'll turn against the military. Should have happened by now, sir. We still have people from Pakistan defending this.
It will happen. Don't worry. It will happen. It is happening. You see in the social media and everywhere. And he's thinking that he will unite. I think he's not going to unite. What is happening in Balochistan? What is happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa? They are Pakistanis. They have sorted out the Pakistan army. A train hijack, first time in the world. So these are all. This all shows.
So Pakistan clearly has lost its grip. The military has lost its grip.
Yes, exactly.
They do not know which direction to fire. They are falling back on religion.
Yes.
And hate against Indians. Thanks very much, both Major General Sanjay Mestin and Ambassador Anil, for joining us with your time. All right, we right here on News 9 going to track very closely on developments coming in from India and across the globe in the backdrop of the deadly Pahalgam terror strike. That's it for now. Thanks very much for watching.
Doll, please.
I am my dear cool.
ये एयर कंडीशनर नहीं, AI कंडीशनर है।
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
News 9 Corporate Badminton Championships in collaboration with Pullela Gopichand Badminton Foundation is here for all of you to experience the passion and network. This is a great opportunity to experience your childhood memories and also be part of a corporate event which enhances sportsman spirit in all of us. Wishing you all the best and hope to see you here.
Presenting sponsor, Srinidhi University, Kindle the Light Within. Venue partner, Pullela Gopichand Badminton Academy, Hyderabad.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9, English news as it should be.